Good day. My name's Graham and I'd like to make a few comments on the EU and why it's collapsing as an idea. Basically because the people who run the centralised committee that run the EU, which are derivative of ex-Marxists and other people that have come in and got on board the idea of globalised Marxism, which has been around for a very long time. It's not a new idea. They just changed the politics and changed the way they transmit the messages through the media, etc. And they've used a lot of money to capture an awful lot of people and compromise others through various means. The problem with the EU, it's not a bad idea. When you think about it and you go to Europe, it seems at first like a really good idea. But then they made the mistake of claiming it was some sort of human right to allow endless and millions of immigrants into a place and therefore spoil the immunity and put fear into the locals about all these strangers invading their countries. They're uninvited, but no right to go there. The human right is to protect your border from an invasion of strangers. That is an intrinsic human right going back to the very beginning of human tribalisation, if you like. It goes into the jungle warfare, and the EU have ignored the most intrinsic human right, and is that to protect your own territory from invaders. They've invited them in through the ignorance of Merkel, and now they've sought this pact that say it's a human rights pact for others to come into your own country when it's not. That's a political description of human rights. Human right, the intrinsic human right, and this is the important part, is to be able to question authority. Now, the left in America especially are saying they are the authority and you can no longer question them. Therefore, they have done what Stalin did and Mao Zedong did and Hitler did to some extent. So you no longer can question the authority. And that's what this is. EU is reminiscent of Hitler and Stalin and Mao Zedong. We haven't quite got there yet, but give them time. With the youth that they're brainwashing through various techniques that they learnt during the last 80, 90 years, they have all this army of youth who think the climate's going to collapse around their heads and all that sort of stuff. And they're using, Hitler had Hitler youth, now they've got this left, they've got this climate deniers, anti-climate deniers youth, which they want to now use against ordinary working people who just go about, want to get on with their lives, pay taxes and have a sort of a normal life, if you like. But the EU itself, well, I said it was a reasonable idea, but once as soon as it becomes a dictatorship, which it now has, and dictates to other people who have got their heritage, and like the Italians or the British people or the French or anyone else, we've got a very, very long gestation of their culture. I mean, the Italians go back to Roman times and they're proud of it. The Britons go back to whenever. The French and the Gauls go back for thousands of years. And now the EU wants to demolish what has been thousands of years in the making, and therefore they've shown themselves ignorant of one, basic human nature. So you cannot claim to be supporting human rights when you're ignorant of basic human nature. And two, they're very basically ignorant of basic economics. They want to take away the economic benefits of living in a nation state that the European Union could have been. Thereby bringing in millions of immigrants and having to fund those people who don't work as much or far less likely to work than the locals. So money is paying, taxes are being paid by the locals who are working, their services and costs and their amenity and welfare is being reduced to support millions of other people, and forever and ever. Because the EU has made one fundamental error. It has not provided one, and it hasn't said, look, this is a series of employment that you can come into our nation if you first of all sign this agreement, a contract. The EU makes other people abide, the British and everyone else, the Italians, anyone, Greeks, abide by these contracts. But it does not apply these contracts to these immigrants coming in and say, you come to our countries, These are laws you must obey, and these is a contract you shall be working for a set amount of years to earn your place here. In other words, it's hypocritical, and it's inhuman to the residents, the traditional residents of the traditional countries of Europe, and the years and years of gestation of a feeling that they're Italians or they're British or French or whatever they are. The EU leaders, these inhumane, unfeeling people, simply do not understand democracy. Democracy has got nothing to do with their character, because democracy is also something that's taken a long time to gestate into the people. And I don't know where the leaders of the EU come from. I've got no background on them. But it's obvious they are an anti-democratic core who think they know better about humans than all other people, when it's obviously they're failing so badly now. Obviously their intelligence is all about gaining intelligence on individuals to control them and manipulate them, but their basic intelligence about human nature itself is extremely limited. And that's obvious, because what we're seeing now is chaos. Because it says in the Tao, Lao Tzu, the wisest person ever in some of our opinions, said, the more I see leaders trying to control and hold the world and almost lose their grip. They lose their grip on reality. And that's what's happening in Europe. The EU leaders have lost their grip on the reality that the people they're trying to control and manipulate into these positions have evolved a sort of in their DNA, into their culture, a way of thinking and being that you can't eradicate overnight, and you cannot eradicate. It's there, it's proto. It's a proto-cultural potential that resides in all cultures and races. So what the EU are doing is against the human, to be different, to be what they are. They want demanding everyone be the same. How can we be the same as others with no education and no ability to read or write? How can we be the same? How can we integrate with people? Oh, we cannot integrate with, for many, many reasons. Maybe we don't want to integrate. You can't force people to integrate. Are the leaders of Europe integrating? Are they living in the suburbs they create for all these immigrants? No. They live in the most expensive, exclusive part of the place. Soon they'll be putting fences up and put themselves in these little... They need to live in prisons now because they're so frightened of their own population. And that is a failure of leadership. These aren't pharaohs. These are fools who run Europe. My name's Graham. And obviously the people really need to think how they act. Do not get caught into violence. Do a Gandhi, a peaceful sit-down revolution till something proper, and you get your, a right to assert your rights in your own country is taken notice of by these people who run the committee that runs the EU. As Nigel Farage said, they're a gang, and that's why they're acting right now. A gang. And it's unsavoury. They might have a lot of money, but by God they've got no class.